A billionaire architect disappears from a locked penthouse on the 47th floor. No forced entry. No signs of struggle. Security cameras show him entering, but never leaving. The only clue: a single drop of blood that doesn't match his DNA. This is the story of the most baffling disappearance in modern criminal history. In the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through one of the most mind-bending cases that ever crossed a detective's desk. We'll explore the crime scene together, examine the suspects who all had perfect alibis, uncover the twisted motive that no one saw coming, and reveal how investigators finally cracked a case that seemed absolutely impossible to solve. Trust me, the ending will leave you speechless. So settle in, because this story has more twists than a corkscrew. It was March 15, 2023, when Victoria Chen, the billionaire architect who designed some of the world's most iconic skyscrapers, vanished into thin air. Victoria wasn't just wealthy, she was a genius. At 42 years old, she'd built an empire worth over $3 billion. Her designs had reshaped skylines from Dubai to Singapore. She was meticulous, paranoid even about her security. Her penthouse in Manhattan's prestigious Hudson Towers was a fortress. Biometric locks, motion sensors, cameras covering every angle. The building itself was her masterpiece, a gleaming tower of steel and glass that she designed with one specific feature. It was virtually impossible to break into. On that Tuesday evening, security footage showed Victoria entering her penthouse at 9:47 p.m., carrying her laptop bag and a coffee from the lobby. She was alone. She waved at the camera, something she did every night. The elevator doors closed behind her. That was the last time anyone saw Victoria Chen alive. The next morning, her assistant Sarah Winters arrived at 8 a.m. for their daily briefing. She knocked. No answer. She called Victoria's phone. It went straight to voicemail. Sarah had a spare keycard, but it wouldn't work. The digital lock showed that the penthouse was sealed from the inside using the manual override, a feature Victoria used when she wanted absolute privacy. Growing concerned, Sarah called building security. When they finally overrode the system and opened the door, they found nothing. The penthouse was empty. Victoria's phone sat on the kitchen counter. Her laptop was open on her desk, still logged in. Her purse, her keys, her wallet, everything was there. Everything except Victoria. But here's where it gets truly bizarre. The penthouse was on the 47th floor. The windows were sealed. They couldn't be opened, a design feature Victoria herself had insisted on. The balcony door was locked from the inside. There was no secret passage, no hidden exit. The ventilation shafts were too small for a human to fit through. Security cameras covered the single hallway leading to her door. No one had entered or left except Victoria herself the night before. The police were baffled. Detective Marcus Rodriguez, a 20-year veteran who'd seen everything, stood in that pristine penthouse and couldn't explain it. "It's like she evaporated," he told his partner, Detective Alicia Thompson. "People don't just vanish. There's always a how. Always." But the mystery deepened when forensics made a chilling discovery. On the white marble floor of Victoria's bedroom, they found a single drop of blood. Just one. Fresh blood. And when they ran the DNA, it didn't match Victoria Chen. It didn't match anyone in the criminal database. It didn't match anyone they'd ever seen before. Detective Rodriguez knew that in missing persons cases, you start with the inner circle. And Victoria Chen's inner circle was small, exclusive, and each person had a motive. Marcus had co-founded Chen and Webb Architecture with Victoria 15 years ago. But recently, their relationship had fractured. Victoria wanted to take the company public. Marcus wanted to keep it private. They'd been arguing for months. Office staff reported heated shouting matches. Marcus stood to lose control of the company if Victoria's plan went through. The detectives brought Marcus in for questioning. He was calm, almost too calm. Yes, we disagreed about the company's direction, he admitted. But Victoria and I were working it out. I was at a business dinner that night at Maria Restaurant from 7 p.m. until midnight. I have 12 witnesses, including 2 city council members and a federal judge. His alibi checked out perfectly. Restaurant receipts, credit card statements, photos on social media. Marcus Webb was exactly where he said he was. The divorce had been ugly. Victoria and David had split 3 years ago after she discovered he'd been having an affair with a junior associate at the firm. The settlement had cost David $20 million, and by all accounts, he'd never gotten over it. Friends said he was obsessed with Victoria, calling her constantly, showing up unannounced at her office. 2 weeks before her disappearance, Victoria had filed a restraining order against him. Security had escorted him out of Hudson Towers twice in the past month. David seemed like the obvious suspect. Angry ex-husband with a history of harassment. But when detectives checked his whereabouts, they hit another wall. On the night of Victoria's disappearance, David Chen was in Los Angeles, giving a presentation at an architecture conference. Hotel records, flight manifests, conference attendance logs. All confirmed. He'd been 3,000 miles away. Sarah had worked for Victoria for 7 years. She was loyal, efficient, and knew everything about Victoria's life. She had access to Victoria's calendar, her passwords, her security codes. She was one of only 3 people with a keycard to the Penthouse. But here's what made detectives suspicious. Sarah was the sole beneficiary of a $2 million life insurance policy Victoria had taken out on her behalf. She said it was to thank me for my loyalty, Sarah explained, tears streaming down her face. Victoria took care of people she trusted. When pressed about the night of the disappearance, Sarah's story was airtight. She'd been at her sister's apartment in Brooklyn, celebrating her nephew's birthday. 20 family members could confirm it. Her phone's GPS data matched her story. Her MetroCard showed she'd taken the subway home to Brooklyn at 7:15 p.m. 3 suspects, 3 perfect alibis. No way in or out of the penthouse. No body. No ransom demand. No explanation. Detective Thompson spent days reviewing the security footage frame by frame. "Marcus, there has to be something we're missing," she said, her eyes red from staring at screens. They watched Victoria enter the building. They watched her take the elevator. They watched her walk down the hallway. They watched her wave at the camera and enter her penthouse at 9:47 p.m. And then, nothing. For 11 hours, the camera recorded an empty hallway. No one approached the door. No one left. At 8:49 a.m., Sarah Winters appeared on camera, knocked, waited, made phone calls, and eventually called security. "Play it again," Rodriguez said. They'd watched the footage 100 times. "There has to be something," came from an unexpected source. The building's maintenance supervisor, an older man named George Petrov, mentioned something in passing. "You know, Miss Chen was really interested in the building's construction when we did renovations last year. She kept asking about the elevator shafts, the structural supports, the original blueprints from 1982. Why would she care?" Thompson asked. "She designed the building." "That's just it, detective. He didn't. Not this building. Hudson Towers was built 40 years ago. Ms. Chen bought the penthouse 10 years ago, but she didn't design the building itself." Rodriguez felt a chill run down his spine. "Get me the original blueprints. Not the current ones. The originals from when this building was constructed." Took 2 days to track them down from city records. When they finally spread the yellowed blueprints across the conference room table, Thompson gasped. "Oh my God!" There, buried in the original plans, was something that didn't appear on any modern schematic. A service shaft that ran behind the elevator banks, installed during construction to allow maintenance access between floors. It had been sealed off decades ago when the building was renovated, deemed unnecessary under new building codes. But it was still there, hidden behind drywall and forgotten. And Victoria Chen's penthouse had been built right over it. At 2 a.m., a tactical team and forensics unit entered the penthouse. Using thermal imaging and ground-penetrating radar, they confirmed it. There was a hollow space beneath Victoria's bedroom closet. When they pulled back the custom carpeting and the marble flooring, they found it, a hidden access panel expertly concealed. It opened onto a narrow shaft that descended into darkness. Rodriguez went down first, his flashlight cutting through decades of dust and cobwebs. The shaft dropped down through 7 floors before opening onto an abandoned maintenance corridor. From there, a service exit led to an alley behind the building, a door so old and rusted that no security camera covered it. Victoria Chen hadn't vanished into thin air. She'd found a way out that everyone had forgotten existed. But had she left on her own? Or had someone taken her? At the bottom of the shaft, forensics found something that made the case even more disturbing. Fresh scuff marks on the metal ladder, signs of a struggle, and caught on a rusty bolt, a single strand of Victoria's hair. And then they found the second drop of blood. Same DNA as the one in the bedroom, still unidentified. Detective Thompson ran the case through a new lens. What if Victoria discovered something? What if she found this secret passage and used it herself? They went back through Victoria's computer files, her browser history, her email. And there, buried in a folder marked Personal Projects, they found it. Architectural drawings, plans, calculations. Victoria had been researching the building's original structure for months. But why? Why would a billionaire architect need a secret escape route from her own penthouse? The answer came from Victoria's private investigator, a man they didn't even know existed until his lawyer came forward after seeing news coverage. His name was Raymond Cole, and he'd been working for Victoria for 6 months. His assignment: investigate Marcus Webb. Victoria suspected Marcus of embezzlement. She believed he'd been siphoning money from the company for years, funneling it through shell corporations. She'd hired Cole to gather evidence, but she was terrified. She thought Marcus might kill her if he found out, Cole told the detectives. That's why she wanted me to work in absolute secrecy. The pieces started falling into place. Victoria had been planning to confront Marcus with evidence of his crimes. She'd discovered the hidden shaft while researching ways to secure her penthouse. Maybe she'd planned to use it as an escape route if things went bad. But something had gone wrong. Detectives obtained a warrant for Marcus Webb's financial records. What they found was staggering. Over $15 million diverted from Chen and Webb architecture over the past 5 years. Marcus had been stealing from Victoria systematically, building a nest egg he thought she'd never discover. But there was more. Marcus had a secret apartment in Lower Manhattan, paid for under a false name. When police raided it, they found a computer with web searches from the week before Victoria's disappearance, Hudson Towers' original blueprints, building maintenance shafts, undetectable poisons. Marcus Webb had discovered that Victoria knew about the embezzlement, and he'd found out about her secret escape route. But how? The final piece came from phone records. Sarah Winters, Victoria's loyal assistant of 7 years, had been receiving payments from Marcus Webb's shell corporations, $50,000 a month for the past year. When confronted, Sarah broke down. He said Victoria was going to destroy the company, she sobbed. He said if she took it public, hundreds of people would lose their jobs. He said he was trying to save the firm. He offered to make me a partner if I helped him. Sarah had been spying on Victoria for months, reporting her activities to Marcus. When Victoria discovered the building's hidden shaft, Sarah had told Marcus. And together, they'd planned something unthinkable. The night of March 15th played out very differently than the official timeline suggested. Victoria had discovered Marcus's embezzlement that afternoon. She'd called an emergency board meeting for the next morning, planning to present evidence that would send Marcus to prison for decades. But Sarah had warned Marcus immediately. Marcus had panicked. He'd used Sarah's keycard to enter the building through a service entrance with no cameras. Sarah had told him exactly where to go. While Victoria was in her penthouse, he'd accessed the forgotten maintenance shaft from 7 floors below, climbing up through the darkness. At 11:30 p.m., while Victoria worked at her laptop, Marcus had emerged from the hidden panel in her bedroom closet. The first she knew of his presence was when she turned and saw him standing there, holding a knife. "You're going to destroy everything," he'd said. "Everything we built." Victoria had fought. The single drop of blood in her bedroom was from Marcus. She'd scratched his face during the struggle. But Marcus was stronger. He'd subdued her, bound her hands, and forced her down the shaft. Through the abandoned corridors, out into the alley, into a waiting car. Sarah had driven. They'd taken Victoria to a location Marcus had prepared weeks earlier. A storage unit in New Jersey, soundproofed and stocked with supplies. Marcus's plan was to keep Victoria alive, but hidden until he could force her to sign documents transferring control of the company to him. He'd researched psychological torture techniques, planning to break her will over weeks or months. The unidentified DNA. Marcus had been paranoid about leaving evidence, so he'd undergone a black market gene therapy procedure months earlier, attempting to alter his DNA signature. It had partially worked, enough to confuse forensic databases. But Marcus had underestimated Victoria Chen one final time. Armed with confessions from Sarah and evidence from Marcus's apartment, police traced electronic purchases Marcus had made under various aliases: storage unit rentals, soundproofing materials, industrial locks. It led them to a facility in Newark. At 3 a.m., exactly 8 days after Victoria's disappearance, a tactical team breached the storage unit. They found Victoria Chen alive. Dehydrated and terrified, but alive. She'd been planning her own escape, using an architectural trick. She discovered a weakness in the unit's wall structure, and had been quietly working to create an opening using nothing but a metal bracket she'd torn from a shelf. When police burst in, Marcus tried to run. He was apprehended 3 blocks away. Sarah Winters was arrested at her apartment, where police found detailed notes on Victoria's schedule and habits. The case that had seemed impossible, a woman vanishing from a locked room, had been solved through persistence, attention to detail, and the victim's own brilliance. Marcus Webb was sentenced to 45 years in prison for kidnapping, attempted murder, embezzlement, and conspiracy. Sarah Winters received 20 years for her role in the crime. Both are currently serving their sentences with no possibility of parole for at least 15 years. Victoria Chen survived her ordeal, though she rarely speaks publicly about those 8 days. She sold Chen and Webb architecture and retired from public life, moving to a small town in Oregon where she now teaches architecture at a local college. She's designed her new home with absolutely no hidden passages, just open spaces filled with light. The Hudson Towers penthouse was sold. The hidden maintenance shaft has been permanently sealed, and the building's security system was completely overhauled. Detective Rodriguez retired 2 years after solving the case. He says it taught him the most important lesson of his career. The impossible just means you haven't found the explanation yet. There's always a how, always an answer. You just have to be stubborn enough to find it. The case became legendary in law enforcement circles. A reminder that even in our age of technology and surveillance, criminals can still find ways to exploit the forgotten corners of our world. But it's also a reminder that victims aren't helpless, that intelligence and courage can prevail even in the darkest circumstances. Victoria Chen vanished from a locked room on the 47th floor, and for 8 days, the world believed in an impossible crime. But the truth, as it always does, eventually came to light. Sometimes the most complex mysteries have solutions hiding in plain sight. In blueprints forgotten, in trust betrayed, in greed that knows no bounds. The single drop of blood that started as an unsolvable mystery became the key that unlocked everything. DNA that didn't match any database became the signature of a criminal who thought he could outsmart science itself. And a woman who built towers reaching toward the sky proved that even in the deepest darkness, hope and determination can light the way home. That's the story of Victoria Chen's disappearance. A case that reminds us that truth is stranger than fiction, and that real heroes don't wear capes. Sometimes they wear handcuffs and badges. And sometimes they're architects who refuse to let their story end in tragedy. Thank you so much for watching this deep dive into one of the most fascinating criminal cases in recent history. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more incredible true crime cases with twists you won't see coming, please subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. I cover cases like this every week. Disappearances, heists, mysteries that seem impossible until you know the truth. Drop a comment below telling me what you thought of this case. Did you guess the ending? What would you have done in Victoria's situation? I read every comment and love hearing your theories and insights. And if you really want to support the channel, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with anyone who loves a good mystery. It helps more people discover these incredible stories and keeps me motivated to bring you the best true crime content I can create. Next week, I'll be covering the case of the jewelry thief who robbed the same museum 3 times without ever being caught on camera. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. Until then, stay curious, stay safe, and remember, the truth is always out there, waiting to be discovered. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.